Today, we're diving deep into something really unique. We're not just talking about any old fraternity. We're talking about an institution that literally helped invent the American Greek system. And the big question we're tackling is, should you join the original chapter of Sigma Phi?
And look, you gotta understand, this isn't just some chapter that's been around for a while. No, its roots go all the way back to the very beginning of the whole fraternity model. So it's not just historic, it's like a living piece of that history. So, to really get this, we've got to travel back in time a bit to Union College in New York. They actually call it the mother of fraternities, and for good reason. This is where the Union Triad was born way back in the 1820s, and that became the blueprint for basically every social fraternity that popped up across the country afterward.
Okay, so with all that legacy, all that history, does it actually live up to the hype? Is the alpha of alphas, as they call it, the right move for someone today? Let's get into it. Think of this as your complete insider's briefing. We're going to break it all down.
First things first, let's really unpack what it means to be the original Greek house. Because understanding the pedigree, the history of the alpha of alphas, well, that's absolutely crucial to understanding who they are today.
And we are not just talking about ancient history here. I mean, look at this timeline. Even today, this chapter is so important that the entire national organization is holding its 2024 convention right there, right where it all started. So it's not some dusty museum piece, you know? It's a living, breathing touchstone for the whole fraternity.
So, okay, how does all that history actually translate to the day-to-day vibe? Let's get into it. We're talking about a culture that really values composure over chaos.
And right here, this kind of lays out a fundamental choice you have to make. Sigma Phi at Union, they are firmly on the gentleman's club side of things. It's all about deliberate, curated socializing. So if you're looking for that chaos factory vibe, you know, the stuff you see in the movies, yeah, this is not going to be it.
Now, this whole selective culture thing, it comes with some pretty serious perks. That heritage halo, it's not just for show. Alumni take that stuff seriously. And having a smaller, more curated group of guys means, frankly, less drama and a much cleaner reputation around campus. Plus, you know exactly what you're getting into from the moment you walk in the door.
But, of course, there's always a flip side. That same culture has its trade-offs. The social calendar, it's definitely on the quieter side. And that expectation to carry yourself well, that's not just like a friendly suggestion. It's socially enforced, for real. And to outsiders, all that selectivity can sometimes look a little distant, maybe even insular.
So let's talk numbers. How does this whole vibe actually translate into the real day-to-day experience? Let's take a quantitative look.
And these scores, man, they really tell the story, don't they? A 44 out of 100 for stereotypical frat lifestyle, that tells you right away this is not the place for those weekly basement ragers. It's much more about well-run formals, mixers, and that 49 for hooking up, that suggests that things like personal polish, you know, actually being a good conversationalist, that matters way more here than just being a guy in the house.
Okay, now this is interesting. The source material we're drawing from uses this really unique metric to measure brotherhood. It's called the homoerotic level scale. And just to be clear, it's an analytical tool for measuring the level of non-sexual, platonic intimacy and closeness between the brothers.
So what this scale does is it maps out these different styles of bonding. You've got level 2, which is more like surface-level group hangouts. Then you move up to level 4, where you get real emotional support. And then it goes into these higher levels that are more about performative, sometimes reputation-risky behaviors.
So the big question is, where does Sigma Phi at Union land on this thing? Right at a 4 out of 10. The source actually calls this the bromance tier, which means you're getting a closeness that's really healthy and supportive, but it's not performative.
What that really means is that brotherhood here is, well, it's functional. It's intimacy that's expressed as care and competence, not as a big spectacle. So think about it like this. It's fixing a brother's tie before a formal, or giving him an arm-over-the-shoulder pep talk, or staying up late to help him prep for a huge job interview. The vibe is just, it's warm, it's steady, it's not rowdy.
All right, let's talk about the long game, the alumni network. Because, let's be real, a huge part of the whole promise of a place like this is the value you get after those 4 years are up.
And when it comes to alumni value, the chapter pulls a pretty solid 66 out of 100. Now, that's a strong score. It tells you that the network provides real, tangible opportunities. But, and this is a big but, it is not automatic. You have to know how to use it. So, this network, it skews heavily toward those serious, traditional career paths. Think law, finance, policy, medicine.
It really works on what you'd call warm intros. A well-prepared brother who does his homework can absolutely turn a coffee meeting with an alum into a job interview. But it's not a golden ticket, and it's going to offer pretty limited leverage if your dream is to be, like, a TikTok star or a crypto founder.
Okay, now for the part I'm sure you've been waiting for, the ultimate insider payoff. If everything we've talked about sounds like a good fit for you, how do you actually crack the code? How do you successfully navigate their recruitment process, what everyone calls rush? Listen closely, because this one line, it's everything. This is the absolute key. If you can project these 4 traits, discreet, dependable, academically serious, and socially composed, then you are exactly the kind of person they're looking for.
And the source gives us some killer model answers that just get right to the heart of it. So if they ask why Sigma Phi, you talk about wanting a standards-driven fraternity with real heritage. If they ask what you bring to the table, you give them something specific and concrete, like you'll own alumni ops, not just some vague promise to help out. And when you define brotherhood, you talk about reliability and respect, practical stuff.
The do's and don'ts here are pretty straightforward. The green flags, they all signal maturity and dependability. You know, simple things like sending a thank you note, asking informed questions. The red flags are the exact opposite. Bragging about how much you party, trashing other frats, making promises you can't keep. Basically, anything that shows you don't see them as potential teammates.
Okay, so let's wrap this all up. Time for the final verdict. We've looked at the history, we've broken down the vibe, we've seen the numbers, and we've got the playbook. So who exactly is the ideal person for this really historic chapter?
At the end of the day, choosing a chapter like this over a, let's say, a louder one, it's a bet. It's a bet on the idea that in the long run, things like composure, reliability, and heritage matter more than just hype and noise. It's really for the kind of person who believes that a name that ages well on a resume is worth more than a couple of extra wild nights. And that leaves us with one final big question to think about. In a world that is so often built on hype, what's the real value of heritage?